Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. I am Farron Cousins sitting in for David Pakman today. Let's talk about policy for a little bit here. You know, we've got two major policies that could horribly affect the United States happening right now, one of which is actually already horribly affecting the United States, and that happens to be Donald Trump's trade war. Now, this past weekend, Fox News ran an op-ed on their website by Andy Puzder. And in this op-ed, Mr. Puzder decides to go after the Democrats running for president for being completely backwards on trade, allegedly. Here's a few quotes out of this. This is absolutely craziness here, what Mr. Puzder writes. He says, Trump's opponents accuse him of starting a dangerous trade war with China, but in reality, China has been waging economic war against the U.S. for decades. President Trump just decided it was time for America to start fighting back. By fighting back, does he mean file for bankruptcy at an alarming rate? Because that's what's happening to our farming communities, thanks to Donald Trump's trade wars. Does he mean that people are contemplating suicide in this country because of the effect these trade wars are having on their businesses, their livelihoods, their life? Because that's also happening. Those reports started coming out last week. People's lives are being destroyed because of these trade wars. And these Republican cheerleaders, like the ones on Fox News who say, heck yeah, stick it to China, they don't understand what's actually happening because none of it affects them. There isn't a single person working on the air on Fox News who is affected by this trade war, by any of the tariffs whatsoever. They're not having to pay a price. Consumers are. Average American citizens are. Small business owners are. Large business owners are. But not Fox. And that's why they're able to sit out there, talk about things they don't understand, and I'm going to get to that in just a second, but act as cheerleaders for the president's horrendous policies. And here's what I mean when I say they don't understand. Most people don't understand trade deficits. They don't understand the economics of trade. It is, believe it or not, an incredibly complex system that most economists will tell you doesn't matter at all. And that may come as a shock to hear. But I spent the last 48 hours researching this, looking to see if I could find credible economists who were willing to come out and say that yes, trade deficits matter, they hurt our country, and we have to do something about it, and I couldn't do it. Couldn't find it. You know why? Because it doesn't exist. You're not going to find a credible economist who tells you that, yeah, we've got to do something about our trade imbalance with China. And yet here we have an administration that's been telling us for well over a year that China's been playing us all for suckers, that they have been taking advantage of us, is what President Trump has specifically said. China's been taking advantage of us, and he's fighting back. Well, let me ask you, the audience, this question. And I asked my own audience this question last week and could not get a single response. So please, if you do have a response to this, feel free, reach out to me on Twitter at FarronBalanced, DM me, tweet it at me, and tell me when you have personally felt victimized by the trade imbalance between the U.S. and China. Trump told us we were being victimized, they were taking advantage of us, and that it was impacting us. So tell me a personal experience you have had buying a good or service when you've walked away being, gosh darn it, I'm the victim here. China screwed me again. Again, my Twitter feed is wide open. Please, if that has happened to you, let me know at FarronBalanced. I want to hear, honest to God, I want to hear if that has happened to you. But you know what? I'm willing to bet it hasn't. And economists would agree with me. Because here's the thing. Yes, when you only look at bilateral trade and you see a $300 billion trade imbalance because we're taking more from China than they're taking from us, on paper that looks bad. But also on paper it really doesn't matter. It doesn't technically affect the U.S. economy in any significant way. There might be small things here and there that do get affected. Yes, economists admit that. But beyond that, is there large-scale ramifications for it? No. It doesn't exist. And plus, once you start to look at the bigger picture, because this isn't just the US and China doing business together and everybody else just stays within their borders. This is a global economy. So we may have a trade imbalance with China, and we may have a trade surplus with another country who has a trade surplus with China, but China has a surplus with us. But it all eventually evens out. And yes, overall, the trade deficit, we may still be down. But if our economy is doing well, then it doesn't matter. When our economy is doing poorly, you could make the argument that we should reduce the trade deficit, but ultimately economists also agree that that's really not going to do anything to help our economy. We are not being victimized. We are not being taken advantage of with soybeans and steel. The one area that they say that China has, kind of screwed the U.S. over on is patent infringement and copyright law. Taking our ideas. Most of that has to do with military stuff. Fighter jets, things like that. Other countries have also come in and said China's actually hacked them to steal their trade secrets so that they can build tanks and planes and bombs and whatnot. So yes, we do have an issue with that. But putting tariffs on steel coming into the U.S. from China, that's not going to do that. It's not going to fix it. It's not even going to address the problem. The president himself has yet to address the real problem, but instead wants to pass on the billions of dollars each month in tariffs to American citizens. Now, at this point, I don't know if the president is just playing stupid or if he is honestly just ignorant about how these tariffs work. But American citizens are paying those. American businesses are paying those. We're the ones who are suffering. We're the ones who are having our businesses close their doors. Big and small, by the way. Our farmers, who Trump just announced he was going to give another $12 to $15 billion bailout, they're struggling. And the first bailout he announced, most of it didn't even go to them. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to handle it. So the money just kind of sat there. Sure, they bought a bunch of crops that they couldn't sell, that the farmers couldn't sell, but that's about it. We need to work together with the World Trade Organization to prevent China from being a bad actor. That's the truth, okay? But you're not going to get there with a trade war. It simply isn't going to happen. There are no winners in the trade wars, just billions of losers. And right now, there's a few 100 million losers in the United States who are the ones suffering the real effects from Donald Trump's trade wars. Because as you'll notice, he hasn't put tariffs on any of the goods that he and his family produce over there. He's remained unscathed. It's just everything else that American citizens like to buy or use that he's screwing us over on. But don't worry, you want to buy a Trump good, it's going to be just as cheap now as it ever was.